Oh, where the fuck is this bitch? If they don't appear in the next...
Hello. Apologies, Mr.
Oh, you're there! I was beginning to think Christmas would be here before you.
Yes, well, apologies again. My last meeting ran a little over schedule. So, Mr.
Oh, please, call me Iona. I go by Iona Bush professionally.
Very well, Iona. My name is Detective Blanche, and I assume you know what this meeting is about?
Oh, yes. It's about poor Bobby. Oh, what a tragedy. He was a lovely man. Lovely Bobby.
Miss Bush, tell me what your relationship was with Mr. Black.
Well, it was nothing special. Just a normal employer-employee relationship. I worked for Bobby in the club as a performer. The best performer he had, might I add. I might be older than the rest, but I was the best. Just ask around. I'm a professional. Most popular. The punters love me. Once this whole lockdown shite's over, you should come and see me. I can't imagine who would want to hurt poor Bobby. It's unbelievable. Was he hurt terribly?
How do you know he was hurt? I don't think I mentioned that, Miss Bush.
Oh, you know what the rumour mill's like, Detective Blanche. The news spread like wildfire. But there's usually some truth in amongst it somewhere.
So what have you heard from the rumour mill, Miss Bush?
Oh, well, there was talk that Bobby had got a right kicking, an absolute bleaching. Terrible. And by the time he was found, it was too late, you know. It was bloody awful. God rest him. Oh. Is it right enough then? Was he battered to death?
Well, Miss Bush, I can confirm that Mr. Black had a wound on his head, but that was not what caused his death. He was in fact found to have been poisoned.
Poisoned? Poisoned? Oh, goodness gracious. Are you sure? Who could do such a thing?
Anyway, as Mr. Black's employee, how would you describe him as a boss?
Bobby was a good boss. He was, very attentive. He was always on top of things.
Attentive? Interesting choice of words, Miss Bush. I heard from other employees that Mr. Black was quite unpleasant to work for, to the point where several complaints were made against him. Do you think there's any particular reason he acted differently towards you?
I don't know. Maybe I was just his favourite. I am his most popular performer after all. We got on and respected each other, you know. I can't speak for anyone else.
Right. So, do you know of anyone who would want to harm Mr. Black? Perhaps an ex-partner or something?
Well, I know he was seeing someone recently. I think their name was Richelle or something like that. They used to come round the club sometimes. They seemed quite happy. Before COVID, when I was still working, they hadn't been round a while. But if things had ended, I don't see why they would hurt poor Bobby. If you're looking for a murderer, I'd start with that sister of his. She's a wee rat. Or that wee witch that was his maid. Missy or Lizzie. She's one to be watched.
Regina Black? Why would she want to kill her own brother?
Oh, she's rotten. Only out for what she can get. Never worked a day in its life. Always asking Bobby for money. Spent it as fast as she could get it. So with Bobby out the road, she would be in for a killing. I'd start with her, Mr. Blanche.
It's interesting that you mentioned Miss White, Miss Bush.
Who's Mrs. White?
Miss White is Sissy White, Mr. Black's housekeeper.
Oh, that witch. I bet it was her. Oh, she's a fly wee woman, her.
Actually, it was her that recommended that I speak with you, Miss Bush. She told me that you were in a secret relationship with Mr. Black and it ended badly. And according to her, you threatened Mr. Black. You told him to watch his back and he'll regret messing with you. Care to explain?
Yes. Yes, we were together. We had feelings for each other, but he would never go public or break it off with Richelle. Once the club closed, I was out of a job. The money stopped coming in and I asked him for a loan. And what did he do? He laughed in my face. Asked me what he thought he was. He said he couldn't pay me if he wasn't making money either. But that's bullshit. He's worth a fortune. All I needed was a wee amount to pay the rent. After he brought me down to nothing, he ended it. Said it was over and I was just a bit of fun. I saw red and yes, I threatened him. But I was just mad. I couldn't actually hurt him. It wasn't me.
Let's go.
Miss Plume, thank you for speaking with me this evening. I assume you know what this is in regards to?
Yes. Poor old Bobby. I can't believe it. It was such a shock.
What was your relationship to Mr. Black?
Well, he was my ex-boyfriend. We didn't have much of a relationship, Detective. Are you on good terms with any of your exes?
No. I suppose not. So, you didn't have contact with him at all?
No, none. And like I said, we broke up and that was that. No further contact needed.
Why did you break up?
The oldest reason in the book, Detective. Bobby was fond of entertaining other women. I found out and ended it. Simple as that.
Did it not make you angry that Mr. Black was unfaithful to you?
Of course. I'm only human. But I didn't murder him for it, if that's what you're getting at. Surely that would be too obvious.
You'd be surprised at the amount of crimes of passion, shall we say, that have happened. So can you think of anyone who would want to hurt Mr. Black?
How long have you got? Bobby wasn't liked very much, Detective. He was in business like myself and often put the business first. People were jealous and never took the time to get to know him. He wasn't all bad. But the name that comes to mind would be his sister, Regina. She used him like a personal ATM. And if Bobby died, I assume she'd inherit everything. He doesn't have kids. His parents are dead. She's the only family he has. She's not very pleasant. And I wouldn't put murder past her. She's a desperate woman. Always needing money. And what better way to get a big payout than to kill your very rich brother?
Interesting. You seem to have it all figured out, Miss Plume.
Seems like the obvious explanation to me.
Yes, very neat and tidy. However, I have a witness who says you were the last person to see Mr. Black alive on the night he died. Care to explain?
You caught me. I was at the club that night. I was collecting the last of my things. But when I left, he was very much alive, I can assure you.
It seems like you have an answer for everything, Miss Plume. Tell me, did you know it was one of Mr. Black's employees he was having an affair with?
Yes, of course I knew. I caught them together. Miss Iona Bush, I believe.
I can see that it upsets you to talk about this, Miss Plume. My witness tells a different story about when you went to the club that night. They claim you were there to threaten Mr. Black. You told him he would regret humiliating you and that he should watch his back. Is this true?
Who is this witness of yours? They seem to know an awful lot.
So you admit it then? You threatened Mr. Black?
Yes. Yes, I threatened him. I'd had a drink and I just wanted him to know who he was dealing with. Just scare him a bit. The threat was as far as it went. He was alive when I left the club.
As you've probably heard, Miss Plume, Mr. Black's head was badly injured when he was found. But that was not the cause of death. It was revealed in the autopsy that Mr. Black had been fatally poisoned.
Poisoned?
You see, Miss Plume, Mr. Black may very well have been alive when you left the club, but that does not clear you of murder. What's to say that you went there with the poison, slipped it in his drink, and left letting the poison take effect? Plausible, no?
Where did the bash on his head come from then?
We believe he hit his head in a fall, probably after the poison took effect.
Detective, I am many things. I know people don't like me, and I can be cold and unforgiving, but one thing I am not is a murderer. I did not kill Bobby. It wasn't me.
Jesus, hurry up.
Good evening, Miss Black. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Anything I can do to help, Detective. What do you want to know?
Well, as you know, your brother Robert Black was found dead. My condolences.
Thank you.
He was found in his club, and we believe he was murdered. Do you know of anyone who would hurt your brother?
Well, many people, Detective. He wasn't a nice man, especially to me. That's not to say I'd harm him, Detective. Please don't think that.
Why was he not nice to you? You're his sister.
I've been having money troubles. I asked him a few times for loans and I think he was sick of me. Detective, do you know who Bobby left his assets to? I haven't heard a thing.
Miss Black, I hardly think that's a pressing issue at the moment. Your brother has been murdered.
Oh, of course. I was just curious.
As I was saying, Miss Black, do you know of anyone who would hurt him?
Well, there is a few. But Richelle is the first to come to mind.
Richelle?
Apologies. Richelle Plume, Bobby's ex-girlfriend.
Why do you think his ex would hurt him?
Well, Richelle threatened Bobby.
Threatened? When was this?
On the night he was killed.
How do you know that?
I was there, hiding in behind the door. Bobby didn't even know I was there. I snuck in the back. You see, I wasn't exactly welcome. Bobby had put me out the week before and told the bouncers not to let me back in, ever. But I was desperate. I needed money. So I thought I would try one more time and see if he'd softened a bit. I went in the back because I knew the bouncers would turn me away. I was behind the back door of the office that leads to the back landing when I heard voices. They were arguing. So I stood and listened. There was no mistaking Bobby's voice, and it was definitely Richelle. She told Bobby to watch his back, blah blah blah. He would regret something and all that. Excuse me a moment. I'm back, sorry. Needed a wee top up. Where was I?
You were telling me how you heard Richelle threaten your brother.
Right. Well, after I heard that, I knew Bobby would be in a stinker of a mood and would tell me where to go and probably wouldn't even give me taxi fare, so I just left. So you see, Richelle was the last person to see poor old Bobby. It must be her. Don't you agree?
Well, Miss Black, that is quite the accusation and a solid theory. But here's another. Who's to say that you actually left? What if you stayed there until you heard Richelle leave? Then made your entrance? And let's say you were there for a different reason other than to ask your brother for money. What if you decided instead of asking you would just take it? Take it all? You poisoned his drink. and left the scene. All you had to do was wait. You are most likely the sole beneficiary, and as you said yourself, you were desperate. What do you think about that theory, Miss Black?
Hold on. Poisoned? I thought Bobby was hit over the head. I don't understand.
Ah, yes. Forgive me. The cause of death was found to be poisoning, Miss Black, and we suspect the bash to head happened during the fall, presumably after he was poisoned.
Listen, Detective, that is quite the theory, but I could never. Yes, I'm desperate, but not desperate enough to murder, let alone murder my own brother. I know we weren't close, but for fuck's sake, I didn't kill him. It wasn't me.
Hello, Miss White. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Hi, Detective Blanche. Anything to help?
So, Miss White, I'm sure you've heard by now that your former employer was
Yes.
found dead.
I heard it's terrible, isn't it? He was so young. Tell me, Detective, what happened?
He was found in his club, and it appeared he had been struck on the back of the head.
Oh my goodness, that's so awful. What a terrible way to go. Who could do such a thing?
Yes, it is awful. Tell me, Miss White, you were his housekeeper. You must be one of the only people to know the real Robert Black. How would you describe him?
To be completely honest, Detective Blanche, Mr. Black was not a nice man. He was a very selfish man, no patience, and didn't treat people very well. He was hard to work for.
How did he treat you?
Not very well. Sometimes I doubt he even knew I existed, only seemed to notice me when he needed something. How anyone could turn out like that, I actually felt sorry for him. He didn't have many people in his life. Maybe that's why he was so cold.
Who were his close friends?
Well, friends is a strong word to use. He used people for what he could get. There was the boyfriend, Richard Plume, or Dick is what everyone called him, and that wasn't just a nickname, if you know what I mean. He caught Bobby playing away and swore he'd get his revenge. Then there was that drag queen, Iona Hedge or Bush or something. Horrible. What kind of person lives like that? Well, she or he or whatever had an altercation with Bobby. Who knows about what? Who knows what about? Something perverted, no doubt. Then there's that sister. Another horror. Spends money like it's going out of fashion. All inherited, of course. Flew through it, then come round. Bobby sniffing for a handout. He told her where to go. He was sick of bailing her out. He told her to get a job. A job, can you imagine?
And did Mr. Black tell you all this?
Oh, no, not exactly. I sort of overheard him
Please,
talking,
take your
you
time,
see.
Miss White.
The benefits of being invisible. Please don't think I'm a busybody detective. It was just by accident that I heard him.
Well, that is quite the list of suspects, Miss White, all with a pretty good motive for murder. But what about you, Miss White?
Me? Well,
Did you hold any grudges against Mr. Black?
he wasn't the best boss, but I could never hurt him.
Did you manage to keep your job after the pandemic hit, Miss White?
Unfortunately not. The guidelines wouldn't allow it.
I'm assuming Mr. Black made sure you were seen all right.
No, not exactly.
What happened?
He said he would pay me the last wage plus 1 month. He didn't. Not a penny, even for the last hours I worked for him. Nothing. What he offered me was shit. But it was better than nothing. He could afford it, but he chose not to. I had rent to pay, bills, the cost of living. I pleaded him, but he just hung up on me. I'm in debt now. I really think she should look at that drag queen. She's one to be watched.
How do you mean, Miss White?
Bobby was, carrying on with him or her behind Dick's back.
Interesting. Why didn't you mention this before?
Oh, goodness, I think it just slipped my mind, Detective. A wee scatterbrain. It ended badly. Dick caught them and Bobby ended up with Iona. Iona wasn't pleased, threatened Bobby, told him to watch his back. He would regret messing with Iona about. I heard the whole thing.
Where did you hear this?
In Bobby's office. Before lockdown, of course. Wouldn't be surprised if it was them that battered Bobby to death.
Now that you mention it, Miss White, that wasn't the cause of death.
Sorry, what?
Mr. Black was poisoned.
Poisoned. Wonderful.
Yes, it's awful. We believe the blunt trauma was caused by a fall, probably after the poison took effect and Mr. Black collapsed. As we know from past murder cases, the majority of poisoned murder victims were killed by women. It is a very clean manner of killing. The killer doesn't even have to be there when it happens. Quite clever, don't you agree?
I don't know what you're getting at, Detective, but if you are insinuating that I killed Bobby, you're mistaken. Listen, it wasn't me!